Well, good evening, guys. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It was just a wonderful spiritual weekend for the Kirk family here at the Rockin' K 2.0. Man, it's dark to light. I mean, the vision I have now spiritually is so clear, more clear than I ever imagined. The Lord told me it was going to be that way. And I hope everybody else experienced the same thing. And I'm telling you, from what I'm hearing and what's going on, and I'm not talking about the world and media and that kind of stuff, that there's a great victory coming. It really is. This whole thing that's got everybody scared to death and shut up in their homes and stuff, and there's unconstitutional things going on, people getting fined for going to the grocery store. And I mean, you hear these wild stories, who knows if they're true or not. That's the deal, the boots on the ground. Look around. Wherever you're at, you look around. What do you see? Where you work, if you get to go to work. If you're watching that idiot box, you're seeing, I don't care who is putting it out there, you're seeing a distortion of the truth. There's no two ways about it. But we'll get off that. We're here to talk about Roger, growing up with Roger. And like I say, this will all be over soon. We get to celebrate his life together, and the sooner the better. Growing up with Roger was just an amazing ride. Like I said, it puts a smile on my face as I start thinking. There's some of these things I can't say. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we and I did in my life I'm not proud of. And, God's forgiven me for it. And praise God he did. The grace of God, how good he is. But it's just, life on planet Earth. You make choices, you go do them, and we all chase that. At one point in our life, we all chase that little treasure train, pleasure train, and treasure. But you're chasing that train, and it constantly, you're at the caboose trying to reach and grab it and get on, and then it leaves you behind. You go for it again. It's just a never-ending. I can't get no satisfaction, as the Rolling Stones said, because there is no other way. But we chased it. We chased it a lot. We were, last time I talked to you, we're kind of. I went off to college, not far away from DeKalb and Kilgore. Roger went to work for Lloyd, and him and Rufus, and he decided that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a mason, a stonemason, and not necessarily a bricklayer. That end of it was okay, but his deal was more artistic. Lloyd had a special way of laying rock. Not many people lay them that way. I've seen some of Teal Pine's work. He laid them like that too. It's really a unique way to lay them. You don't lay them real smooth or anything. It's art. It's a piece of rock sticking out here, one there. I can remember we were doing our house, rocking up our house. Lloyd came down. We all helped him, and my mom and, mostly my dad. My dad goes, "Hey, look, I'm coming through here a lot with my spraying hose and stuff in the mornings, and say, could you put me a ledge right here I can put my red beer on?" So he would do that. People would request things all the time. Roger loved doing that kind of stuff. I mean, making his mark. There's a lot of pictures of him and his work in Horatio. He really made his mark on Horatio, the golf course, the baseball field. He did a plaque tribute to that. Did a rock base for that, and then there was another place that was really cool. I think historic there in Horatio. But that was his hometown, basically. He was born in DeQueen and 15 miles away in Horatio. But Horatio was unique, another unique place, just one of those like DeKalb, just a very special place. And out of all of those cities around there, some phenomenal people came out of there. The thing I'd like to share today is we're going back and forth, and he and Rufus, and I was going to college. I'd come back every once in a while because it wasn't very far. My granny, Ward, was still alive, and so I'd come visit her, and I'd drop in on Rufus and them, and put my head down and eat lunch with them, because everybody there is like 75 and older, and it's hard to watch them eat, man. Bless their hearts. But anyway, it was getting wintertime, and we'll skip forward a little bit. We're already I kind of partied my way out of college. My second semester, I actually was made the dean's list, which I know there's a lot of people falling out all over the place listening to this because, I was, good grades and studying wasn't my forte, but I had a guy that taught me how to study and it worked. Unfortunately, he was only there for one semester and then he was gone. So I fell by the wayside after that. And my dad says, well, look, if you're going to go from that back to making D's, and on probation again, well, my money's cut off. So I said, yeah, I'm not, I was trying to play football and hurt my knee again. And I said, no, that's okay, Dad. So I went and started, back to living with Roger and them, but it was getting close to wintertime again. And, construction kind of shuts down. We're doing anything we can. And it'd be one of those, you get those calls from Lloyd Pope, he'd call, I say we get a call, it would be at a phone because there's no cell phones or anything like that stuff like back then. And you'd find out that, Lloyd's horses got out. I mean, that would be when he showed up, we were late well, that's what the deal was. We'd all be hanging around work waiting for him to show up. And I think that's what inspired Roger to start doing it himself because he just started working and grabbing a trowel and throwing it in there. And so it kind of got him going. I'm not going to wait on you. We need to make some money. And so, and then Lloyd would show up to work late, goes, hey, sorry guys, man, my horses got out. I don't know, okay. So it was on and off like that all the time. But Lloyd had this house out there, in the country, and and it was like a 2-bedroom house. Or might have been a 3-bedroom, but there was only 2 we stayed in. It was a 2-bedroom house in the living room, and we stayed in the living room mostly. But the house, one room had a big old potbelly, thin metal potbelly stove in it. And it just so happened back then, I'm talking about cold winter. I mean, cold. And so we'd fire that thing up and we'd start, because there's electricity, but there's no heater or anything like that in that house. And so that's where all the crew stayed. And so we would, we'd drink the moose milk, as Lloyd called it, whatever you want to do. In golf, they call it aiming fluid. Anything you do to warm yourself up on the inside besides drinking coffee, is usually whiskey or whatever. So we're gathered around the fire, warming ourselves up, and we'd, canned food and eating it and whatever, or brought stuff from town and ate it. And we just kind of sit around and talk, and that was kind of neat. Roger played a harmonica like he always does. And, we'd tell stories and jokes and stuff like that and kind of laugh ourselves to sleep. The funny part is the next morning, it's 19 degrees and the fire's gone out. And, we'd start out in that room, but it got so hot, you'd have to move to the living room because it was so hot and you couldn't stay in there. And then at the end of the night, next morning, it was like I don't care how bad you had to go to the bathroom, you didn't dare move, because the first person to move, that was a rule, you had to start the fire. And I mean, you had to go outside and get some wood if there wasn't any in there. It was freezing cold, and we were all in sleeping bags. Old Army sleeping bags, where it's like, mummy style. They were awesome. They had feather lining in them, but that was the deal. You had to literally, and I got caught a bunch of times because I was like, I gotta go. I can't take this. All right, well, dude, we heard you. You're up. You're this. So I get up and build the fire and jump back in bed until we got going. That was a rough winter. It really was. But after that, Roger and I had probably had enough of that, not making any money. We watched my dad make a ton of money in the insurance business, selling it, and then being a general manager. He had by the time we decided we wanted to join him, it was in, February of '78. We went to what they call NDOC school in Waco and learned how to sell insurance and how to get your, study for your license and stuff like that. So we were going to follow in my dad's footsteps there and said, what do we got to lose? So we went from long hair to, military style haircuts, because we're selling on base, and clean shaven and suit and tie. I had friends that I've known for ages saw me and went, what the heck, you going to a funeral? That kind of stuff. But it was neat. It was a neat experience. We made a ton of money. It wasn't that hard. Of course, both of us had the gift of gab like my dad. And I probably didn't believe in it as much as Roger and Dad did, so they outdid me. It's whatever you believe in, you can sell it. Big time. But if you had a little bit of question about it, it'd hold you back. But didn't hold Roger back, man. He went gangbusters. Next thing you know, man, he hooked up with an old friend, and And a couple of them he'd known from Austin days back in oh man, I don't even remember when he was back there, maybe late 60s, early 70s. He'd made a little run down there and met some people. And on 6th Street, live music guys. This is way before, I mean, South by Southwest was like, so what? I mean, we used to go listen to, matter of fact, on 6th Street, for the price of a hamburger at Hut's Hamburgers, you could listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan for the price of a burger, and then walk to the other end and buy a beer and sit down and listen to Marshall Ball pick out a blues song or whatever on a piano. I mean, it was like that always in Austin, and it was really cool place and cool times to be back then. Armadillo World headquarters. Roger had good friends who actually did the music for him, the sound. So we'd get in free. And when you got in there, it was like a whole nother world. You could do pretty much whatever you want. If you had a bag of weed, you could sit there and roll it on a table and drink and get high and watch everybody. And as Willie Nelson started up, was coming through during that time, and it was crazy. But back to the insurance part of it, we started making some money. Roger, those friends he met down there, a couple of them were sisters, and Roger kind of hooked up with a dear sweetheart of mine, always will be, Carolyn, Eddie, and Eddings. And I mean, they just, fell head over heels, and, they both had the same philosophies and stuff like that. And that's where, they met and they got married on my parents' place. And Roger was making, like I say, he's making good money, and it was a different time, man. It was like, okay, we're as they say now, we're adulting, but we're responsible. And I was still living in my home and my parents, and and you talking about a deal. I mean, I didn't have any insurance. I mean, I didn't have any bills back then, making $500 a week, and so I was a weekend warrior like you wouldn't believe, because all my friends are still going to college. So I'd take off with them on the weekends. And come back and make me $400, $500, $600 more, $1,000 in a week. I mean, you're making that kind of money. But that was some crazy stuff. We kind of had to take the separation there, because I mean, Roger's starting now. He has a child after a little while, and Maria Stain, aka Ivy Root. Sweet, my first niece, and love her to death to this day. Wouldn't take $1 million for her. I mean, not even $1 billion. You can forget it. And would do anything I could for her. I can remember going to Roger and them's house on a weekend, and Marie's probably 3 years old, and growing up with Roger and Carolyn. I mean, you just imagine. So we came in there one day, and I just kind of walked in, kind of tapped on the door, and I think they were on the back porch or something, and Marie came running in. She goes, "Oh, it's Uncle Ward. I'm freaking out, man. I'm freaking out." It was just hilarious to hear this little 3-year-old running around saying, "I'm freaking out, man." And we teased her about that for a long time. And then his son Dylan came along, and it was a really, I mean, it was a really good times financially. Family-wise, man, we all got together. We'd hunt. My dad eventually hunted acres, but around it there was 5,000 acres, and they would. He's an old country boy, so he's going out through there, and we're quail hunting, and they would jump. We had bird dogs quail hunting. It was unbelievable, and we'd jump birds over the fence. And Dad goes, "Let's go get them." I said, "Well, Dad, what if they got guns? Somebody shoot us. This is somebody's property." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. All right." So next thing I know, it isn't long, he's already called everybody out there that's kind of abandoned their land and got permission to hunt quail on it. And, as long as he took care, he was like the caretaker of their land. And next thing you know, we probably have 200 acres that we're hunting quail on. It was a dream come true. He and I, he taught me how to hunt quail in Oklahoma. We lived up there. And I loved it. And then Roger'd come over and hunt with us, my little brother Bobby there, and we'd get up. And Christmas morning during those times was unique. We would have Christmas dinner, and it would be more like Christmas lunch, brunch. We always hunters. We always had deer meat in the freezer and that kind of stuff. So my mom, after we did Christmas presents and stuff like that, and Roger and his family would come over, and then they'd open their presents and that kind of stuff. And then this is every Christmas, guys. And then we would grab Dad would go, okay, let's go, boys. So me, Roger, Bobby, and Dad would take off with the bird dogs, and we lived right on a creek. We'd go down the creek and then up a bluff and onto the flatland up top and start hunting quail. My mom, in the meantime, would be making a backstrap, frying up backstrap, making my mouth water, frying up backstrap, home white gravy. Dad loved cold tomatoes with hot gravy over them. She had that going. She had scrambled eggs. And then when we got back, we'd get 10, 15 birds, sometimes 8, depending on how bad a shot we were. And we always had, pretty close to a dozen fresh, that morning. And we would fry those up, and that was our Christmas dinner. And man, it was, to me, it was the pinnacle of the R.B. Kirk family. It really was, because I think he felt really, really proud of us because we were doing what he was doing. He always wanted us to, and he was seeing it right before his eyes. And so I remember those times were just really, really special. I know for my dad and my mom, because it was kind of like the fruits of their hard labor and going through all the rebellious stuff that everybody went through in the 60s, kind of came out of that in the 70s. And it was the 80s, was very special living in Killeen. They'd moved out about 15 miles south of there, close to Florence, where my younger brother, Bobby, finally went. He graduated high school from Florence, a little bitty podunk town, kind of like DeKalb. It was a little smaller than DeKalb. But anyway, so those times were just, extremely special. That's where my parents got the place is called the Rock and K. We would have amazing parties. My dad always wanted to give back. Like I told you, he's a big giver. And so we would put out these flyers and my dad, at that point, when I'm talking about right now, my dad had 30 agents working for him. So he didn't even have to sell insurance. He got some 25 and some even 30. And some of the other guys that were great salesmen negotiated other contracts. And, he'd get 10% of everything they sold, him and my uncle. Uncle James was his businessman, and my dad was the I can sell Eskimo ice cubes and make him like it guy. And so it was a great tandem, a great team. Everybody, you got to think about it, 30 agents, and then out of that, everything that my dad touched back then turned to gold. And so we probably, out of R.B. Kirk family, I would say in Fort Hood, Killeen, Florence area, there's probably, not exaggerating, we touched probably 1 million lives during a 10-year period or more. Generals, colonels, first sergeants, sergeant majors. He reminds me of somebody a lot of people don't like right now. He's a white collar guy, but he came from blue collar, and he never forgot it. And he always gave back, like I said. We would have a party for the agents every year, and it started out on the lake, and then we moved it to the ranch. We called it the ranch. It was a ranchette, but we moved it to there out in the country, and it got so big that the highway patrol would have to direct traffic because we lived right on a major road. They'd let them know ahead of time, and we would start on Wednesday night cooking. And that's when the party started for us. So the boys, me, Bobby, and Roger were the gophers. And so we were going gathering kegs, and we were gathering meat, and we were gathering, everything and getting it all set up. We had 2 horseshoe pits with these gigantic trees. 6 people could reach around this tree. It was the old low water crossing for the Florence Highway. The Florence Highway. I get that in Floresville mixed up a lot. Florence Highway, and it was a low water crossing. And they said years ago people would have parties there, washing their cars and stuff, and underneath that big oak tree. So we built a big old rock wall around it. We made a rock patio and all kinds of stuff. It was just kind of payback for my dad, and we built all that for him. And we'd have these parties out there, and there was a horseshoe pit on one side with lights, horseshoe pit on another, and there was a refrigerator underneath the horseshoe pit, a baby crap yellow refrigerator. Always try to get him to paint it, and leave it, it's cool. But it was one of those that had the CO2 in it in the spout out front. So we had a keg in there, and you could keep it forever with CO2 in it. So anytime we just, and you're in the insurance business, it's entertainment. You're entertaining people. And so we would always be entertaining people. But on these occasions, once a year during the summer, there was oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles of people. I'll just tell you this right now. The last one we had, there were over, if I'm not mistaken, there were over 1,500 people went through the food line. We went through probably 200, 300 chickens. Put them on the grill. I know we had 150 to 200 briskets. We had started out with, I think it was 100 kegs. I think it wound up with going getting 50 more. Boom, 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 boom. Like I said, we're the Gophers, man. We had to do all this stuff. And this party almost went. It started on Wednesday night, and then it cranked up on Friday night, and the real party started Saturday. So it really was 24/7 for 4 days, and then there's 2 days of cleanup. So it was almost a week, and we would have to just take a vacation to recuperate from it every year, but everybody, no one ever really. There was one instance out on the lake. I think that's one reason they moved it. But no one ever really got hurt or injured or anything like that. Arrested. It was peaceful, and people really, really enjoyed it. And like I say, we gave back. It was. Roger plays harmonica when he could, and my dad had a band a couple of times. I think we had a band that time. The last year he had it. But like I say, those times were stuff that you can't, it's like I say, you can't, but you can go back in memory. But those are just precious moments in our lives growing up with Roger, and and it was in that backyard where Roger got married to Carolyn, and then later on, Bonnie and I got married there. It was a beautiful, beautiful place, the Rockin' K. That's why we got this place where I'm at now. And my daughter says, "I got a name, Dad. You already named it the Rockin' K 2.0. So I said, "Okay, that's what it is." So we're the Rockin' K 2.0. It was a nice house on the hill, 43 acres. Yep, Roger was here and helped. When we first got here, we had to kind of renovate. That was a double wide. We had to kind of renovate it because it was like unlivable. Kind of livable, but not for us at the time. We had carpet all through it. Those things are. But Roger helped us rip the old carpet out and that kind of stuff. But like I say, growing up with Roger, it was never a dull moment. It really, really wasn't. And that was one of those times where we would leave there, and that's where I'll take you next time. We'd take generals and colonels and stuff like that, and majors, and we'd go to the Deer Woods in Arkansas for a week and just have a blast. And that's where that one thing came from. We're all at the Wagon Wheel. I said the Wagon Wheel, but it was Helen's Hilltop Tavern is what it was. Wagon Wheel was another place. We'd gone there first because it doesn't take long to bar hop on the Arkansas-Oklahoma border in southwest Arkansas. So anyway, Helen's Hilltop Tavern. I was trying to remember the name of the song, and I'll try to remember it when I can. I'll try to write it down because they wrote a song, him and a friend of his, and I kind of put one line in there. And we wrote a song about that story I told where he got up on the stage and he goes, the Key of E boys, see if you can keep up. And he sang a song I'd never heard in my life. Was, Mama had a chicken, Daddy had a duck. And it was like, it went crazy. And that came from us being down there and the atmosphere of bringing it up there. But it was always a great atmosphere. It was always out of love. And, that was the main thing. My parents loved, and they loved people. Roger loved people. I think that was one of the problems he had on a personal basis. One, he was just so intelligent that no one could keep up. And so he would have to, or he thought he'd have to, slow himself down to get on people's level. He really did think that. And so I think we all kind of suffer from it, especially if you're a giver and a lover of people, that when they don't, Marie and I call her Marie, I'm sorry, that's just me, his daughter. I said, Marie and I talked about it, and we struggle when someone doesn't like us. What? What do you mean you like me? I love you, and you don't like me? It's hard to take when you really do genuinely care. But most of those people, I've come to conclusion, have never been loved before. And if they have, they've been fooled. Or as the song goes that we wrote, sucker bait. When you think you're going to get some, and that can be anything. You think you're going to get some love, and then it turns out not to be love. So you got sucker baited. And these people are gun shy. So when you pour it on them, they don't know how to take it, and so they go back at you like they went back at the person that betrayed them. But as I said, the way we grew up was, I trust you. Right off the bat, I trust you. And if I lose that trust, it's your fault, not mine. So that's where we are now. Like I say, growing up with Roger is never a dull moment. It takes me a while to think up these stories because there's some of them are not rated PG-13. They go beyond, and I smile. It was fun. Like I said, we're chasing the pleasure train, but as they say, when I was a child, I spake as a child. I did as a child, but now I'm a man, and I speak as a man, and like that. And I don't remember how Joe Biden moment there. I don't remember how it all went. But you know what I'm saying? You put away your childish things. And so finally had to do that. And so taking me back and going into the childish things, kind of fun. I don't like to dwell there. Roger had a group called the Rear Views because they always kept the past going, and I'm not pointing at the American flag here, but sometimes the past can weigh you down. It's okay, don't forget your past and learn from your mistakes, but don't dwell on it, because you need to live for today. Today's the day, take advantage of today. Always take advantage of today. There's still a lot of time left in today. There's still a lot that you can do to contribute to yourself and the better well-being of other people. So just take advantage of today. Don't brag about tomorrow, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But take it as it comes. We can plan for it, but don't boast about it, because you don't know. There's only one person that knows. And if he reveals it to you, then just praise the Lord, smile, and tell people there's good things to come, because there is. I was kind of working on an improv thing. I love mockingbirds, and we moved out here. There was a couple little ones, and then we watched them, and they had babies, and now I've got like 6 of them running around here, and there's little ones and there's big ones. And the mockingbirds of Texas state bird. I was in Oklahoma, there's a scissortail. I love scissortails. But the mockingbird sings everybody else's songs. And I think in the mornings, it sings its own song. And so if you're up in the mornings and listening to them, they've got a beautiful voice. Those mockingbirds can sing. And so I just started on it, so I haven't finished it, but I'll give you the first verse of it and end with this. Peace. Love you guys. United States of America. United we stand. Divided we fall. So don't let the people on television and the media tell you, or even the government, to tell you to divide. If you got people telling you to stand together, then that's what we should do. It's coming back to rule of law. Trust me. It's going to be one nation under God again, and the constitutional law is coming back. We are going to be a republic again for a brief moment, or I don't know how long, but I know it's God's plan for that to happen. And so constitutional republic and the rule of law and justice is coming back, because there's no one's above the law, and they should never be. And that's coming back. I look forward to that. And you can, mark my words, please. And then when it does happen and you don't believe me, I promise you, I won't go, I told you so. No, I'm going to go, yeah, oh, thank God. Yeah, now you know. Come on board, man. We stand together. Let's be united. So we need to be united and quit being divided and love each other. I mean, that's what it's all about. And so I love you guys. I do. Like I said, I love people. I love my Lord Jesus. I love my family. I love my brothers, my mom and dad, my cousins, you know, all my good friends. If you know me, you know I love you if I've met you. And be honest with you, I haven't met you and someone introduced you and your friend, I love you. Because I do. But this is called, Just for Now, Mockingbird. Why do you sing? Mockingbird, mockingbird, why do you sing? That beautiful song in the morning, and that sad solo song in the evening. Mockingbird, mockingbird, why do you sing? When I don't hear you, I get them mockingbird blues. Love you. Peace. See you guys tomorrow.